Welcome back, chess fans. In today's video, we'll be analyzing the game from the 2024 FIDE Chess World Championship Ding Liren versus Gukesh. And this is the game number 11. And in this game, the Gukesh has the white pieces and he starts the game with knight to f3. This is the Reti opening and d5 was played. So c4, this is the Reti gambit and d4 gambit was declined by Deng. He just advanced the pawn and gained more space in the center. So b4, just pushing the pawn on the queen side. So c5 challenging the pawn and e3 challenging the central pawn. Knight to f6 by Deng and a3 supporting the pawn on b4 square. So bishop to g4 pinning the knight. E takes on d4, c takes on d4, and here h3 challenging the bishop if you want to take or you want to go back. So bishop takes on f3 was played. Queen takes on f3 by Gukesh. Queen to c7 and d3. And just pushing the pawn and solidifying the pawn on c4 square. So a5 challenging the b4 pawn. And here just Gukesh push b5. Knight b to d7, trying to get the knight on this c5 square and putting some pressure on d3. So g3 was played, trying to get the bishop out from the g2 square. Knight to c5 and bishop to g2. So knight f to d7. Now the idea is get the knight here and putting more pressure on this d3 pawn. So Gukesh just castle here and knight to e5 was played in the game. The queen is also hanging and the pawn is still pressure. Queen to f4 and just pinning the knight. So this knight cannot take this d3 pawn, and if you take with this knight, then it's a possible move. But then white is much better. He cannot allow black to develop any of the pieces, and black has to play with the passive position. So in this position, Ding decided not to take the pawn and went rook d8. So rook to d1 defending the pawn and g6. G6 is a mistake in this pawn. Here you should go for e6 and develop the bishop here. So your both knight can get unpinned, but in this position, after rook to d1, g6 was played, trying to get the bishop on this diagonal. So a4, just supporting the pawn and get the square free for knight. So h5, trying to get the bishop on this long diagonal, so queen can get removed from this diagonal. So b6, Gukesh sees the opportunity and push the pawn. So now queen to d6, you can't take this pawn because your knight will hang. So queen to d6 was played and bishop to a3, just pinning this knight. So bishop to h6 was played, kicking the queen, and bishop takes on c5 was played by Gukesh. Now the both queen are hanging with the dark square bishop. So Ding decided to take the bishop first. So queen takes on c5 and queen to e4 and knight to c6. Knight just goes back. So knight to a3, developing the knight, and rook to d7, trying to defend the 7th rank. Knight c2, Gukesh is just trying to reroute the knight and get the rook on this b file. So queen takes on b6, just grabbing the pawn. So a to b1, attacking the queen. Queen went on c7 and rook to b5. Here Ding just castle to safety and knight to a1, trying to get the knight here to here or here. So rook to b8, defending the pawn, and knight to b3 was played and e6. This is the fatal mistake in this position. a6 is just blocking this rook to come in the game. So in this position, best move is rook to d6 and get the rook here or here into the attack. As defend well, Ding chose to passively defense and he went e6, and this is a fatal mistake. Now rook cannot enter in the game simply. Knight to c5 with the tempo on the rook, and rook went on e7 square. In this position, rook d to b1 was played, but this is not the best way to continue the game. In this position, you can directly, so knight takes on b7, knight to b4, and queen takes on d4. Now this knight is protected very well with the bishop. And if you take this knight, then rook takes here, and if queen moves, then rook will get exchange, and Gukesh will get this passer. Or in this position, if you directly take this, then queen takes here, queen takes, bishop takes, and if rook takes, then pawn takes here, and again Gukesh gets the passer here. In this position, after rook to e7, Gukesh went rook d to b1 and queen to c8. This is a fatal mistake in this position. You can just put the knight here and disconnect the rook. If you are going here, then this pawn is falling. In this position, after knight takes, you can play this game. Ding just went queen to c8, and after thinking 14 or 15 seconds, Gukesh says this is a blunder and he can take the knight now. So in this position, queen takes on c6 was played by Gukesh, and Ding just resigned the game because in this position, Ding is just blunder the knight. In this position, you can't take here. If you take here, then bishop takes here, pawn takes here, and rook takes here. It's completely winning. Gukesh is just rook up, and if you don't take here with the queen, if you takes with the pawn, then rook takes here, queen takes here, and rook takes here. Gukesh is just up a piece here again. So now this position is totally lost. So after queen takes on c6, the world champion Ding Liren just resigned the game because he's piece down. And what an incredible game by Gukesh today. He just outplayed the Ding and forced him to make a mistake and wins the game. So what an incredible game by Gukesh. This victory could be a game changer. So stay tuned with us and don't forget to like, subscribe and hit the notification bell. I'll see you in the next game.